We're diving into the latest addition to the Star Wars universe. We'll break down what makes Star Wars Outlaws stand out, what falls flat, and whether it's a game you should be adding to your collection. Star Wars Outlaws takes a refreshing approach to open-world gaming. Unlike the usual Ubisoft formula, where you might find yourself checking off endless tasks on a map, this game offers a more organic experience. It's less about climbing towers to uncover a ton of icons, and more about diving into the world and discovering things naturally. If you're familiar with Rockstar's Red Dead Redemption, you'll find some similarities here. There's plenty to explore, but it's not just a collectathon. You start your journey with Kay Vess, the protagonist, making a rough landing on the planet Toshara. Right from the get-go, you're thrown into action with a high-speed speeder bike chase, dodging bandits and escaping danger. This sequence introduces you to the adrenaline meter, a cool feature that charges up during combat. When it's full, you can pause the action, mark enemies, and take them down in style. It's a nod to Red Dead, but with that unmistakable Star Wars flair. After the thrilling chase, you find yourself in Mirogana, Toshara's bustling city. This place serves as the hub for all the underworld activities on the planet. Your main goal here is to meet with Gorak, the head of the Pike crime syndicate. Whether you decide to buy an invitation from a shady character or sneak in through a ventilation shaft, you'll find that there are multiple ways to approach your objectives. Once you're inside, you'll quickly realize that this isn't a game that holds your hand. Gorak isn't too pleased with your uninvited visit, and you'll soon be working for another underworld figure, infiltrating Gorak's base to steal some valuable intel. This kind of double dealing is exactly what you'd expect from a story centered around a lovable outlaw. The game's mission structure revolves around choices. In the mission with Gorak, you can either go along with the lieutenant's betrayal or report it back to Gorak. Depending on your choice, you'll gain influence with different factions. In this case, siding with Gorak gave you enough influence with the Pikes to roam freely around their base. It's this kind of decision-making that adds depth to the game and makes each mission feel like part of a larger narrative. Star Wars Outlaws doesn't just stick to one planet or one style of gameplay. Each location offers something unique. Toshara, for example, is a vast open world with deserts and open fields. But when you move to the icy planet Kijimi, introduced in Rise of Skywalker, the gameplay shifts. Kijimi's map is more focused on a large town, giving it a different feel. It's still open-ended, with side quests and exploration, but it's more constrained compared to Toshara's wide open spaces. And it's not just the planets themselves that offer variety. The space above each planet has its own set of optional objectives. For instance, in the space above Kijimi, you'll navigate through tunnels in a stellar storm cloud, dealing with bandits and searching for valuable loot among derelict ships. The main story of Star Wars Outlaws revolves around pulling off a big heist. To do this, you'll need to recruit specialists from different planets. After reaching a certain point in the story, you're free to tackle these planets in any order you want. Each planet has its own self-contained story, but you can pause that plotline and move on to another whenever you feel like it. This flexibility adds to the overall experience, allowing you to shape your journey through the galaxy. One of the standout side quests from the demo involves working for the Pike Syndicate. This mission isn't just about sneaking around or shooting enemies. It's about gathering intel and making choices. You start by tracking a co-conspirator in a busy city market, but like any good open-world game, distractions are everywhere. You might find yourself getting sidetracked by a Fattier race betting minigame or looting an abandoned speakeasy for some cool rewards. Eventually, the quest leads you to a space station in Toshara's orbit, triggering a seamless transition between the planet's surface and space. This transition is smooth and immersive, a detail that's a nice touch, even if it's just a cleverly disguised loading screen. While you do get to fly around in space, it's important to note that you won't be spending a lot of time doing so. You're mostly confined to a planet's orbit, where you can explore floating islands and take on various missions. The space combat and exploration are more of a hub experience than a vast, open space adventure. One of the most intriguing aspects of Star Wars Outlaws is its faction reputation system. Your choices throughout the game affect how different factions view you. For example, siding with the Pikes in a mission might make them more likely to offer you jobs, give you access to restricted areas, or provide discounts on gear. On the flip side, if you cross a faction like Crimson Dawn, they might become less friendly, making your journey more challenging. This system adds another layer of depth to the game, making your decisions feel meaningful. However, it remains to be seen how much these choices will impact the overall story. While your reputation with factions fluctuates, the main story missions don't seem heavily influenced by these alliances, at least not in the demo. Surprisingly, Star Wars Outlaws has a strong stealth element. While you can go in guns blazing, there's a real incentive to take a more cautious approach. Kay isn't the most durable character, and taking on too many enemies at once can quickly lead to defeat. Healing items are limited, so sneaking past guards, setting distractions, and taking down enemies quietly is often the best strategy. The combat itself, however, leaves something to be desired. Aiming feels stiff, and the enemies, particularly the stormtroopers, aren't the most challenging foes. They tend to stand still and are easy targets, which can make shootouts feel a bit underwhelming. The action also has a sluggishness to it, reminiscent of Uncharted at half speed, which might not appeal to everyone. Kay's journey through the galaxy isn't a solo one. She's accompanied by Nix, her loyal alien companion. Nix is more than just a cute sidekick. He plays a vital role in the gameplay. You can command Nix to perform various tasks, such as pressing buttons from a distance, setting traps, or even pickpocketing keycards from guards. One of his most useful abilities is playing dead, which can distract enemies long enough for you to slip by unnoticed. Star Wars Outlaws also introduces some fun minigames that add variety to the gameplay. Lockpicking, for example, involves a rhythm-based minigame where you listen for beeps and repeat the pattern to unlock doors. Slicing, or hacking, is another standout feature, resembling a miniature version of Wordle, but with symbols instead of letters. These mini-games are a nice break from the action and add a bit of challenge to the game. Star Wars Outlaws offers a lot to like, but it's not without its flaws. The open-world design is refreshing, the faction system adds depth, and the stealth gameplay is engaging. However, the combat feels sluggish, and the enemies could be more challenging. The game also has its share of bugs, which could be a concern so close to release. If you're a fan of the Star Wars universe and enjoy open-world games with a focus on choice and exploration, Star Wars Outlaws is definitely worth checking out. Just be prepared for some rough edges and a few mechanics that might not hit the mark. So, is it worth playing? If you're looking for a game that lets you live out the scoundrel fantasy in the Star Wars universe, then yes, it's worth your time. Just don't go in expecting perfection. It's a solid addition to the Star Wars lineup, but like any Outlaw, it's a bit rough around the edges. Thanks for watching, and until next time, catch you in the next video.